Thank you so much, Vanderlei, for your kind introduction. His Holiness Pope Francis reminds us food waste is a symptom of our broader throwaway culture, a way of life that destroys our earth and blinds us to the needs and values of human life. And perhaps there's no more direct example of that culture than food waste. His Holiness described it well many times, and in 2013 he said, "Food that is thrown away might as well have been stolen from the table of the poor, the hungry." And I've just found that statement to be incredibly moving. The food that is thrown away might as well have been stolen from the table of the poor and the hungry. I mean, that completely changes the way you think about this problem because of the moral dimension of that. There's obviously technical, social, lots of other dimensions that we need to think about. And about 6 years ago, the Rockefeller Foundation first took up the challenge of food loss and food waste and launched the YieldWise initiative a few years later in 2015. And there were really two goals for that YieldWise initiative. The first was to kind of raise awareness of the food waste and food crisis. We've known it for a long time, but it was just not on the global agenda. And secondly, to provide the field and policymakers and food businesses, producers and households that we hoped would listen with not only the models demonstrating that reducing food waste was possible, but also tools to take those models to scale. And I think over the last 4 to 5 years, there's been incredible movement. And even though I think there's a lot to be done, I mean, it is good to step back and just realize how much awareness has been raised and what has happened. And I think there's a lot of very good examples of tremendous success. We heard what happened in the UK, but in East Africa, for example, some of our projects there have affected over 300,000 farmers, 30,000 mango growers just used $3 fly traps and reduced their waste by over 20%. These are simple, low-cost technologies that have huge impact. In the United States, our partners there engaged with over 30 U.S. cities and food waste programs. Our World Wildlife Fund partners launched something called Hotel Kitchen program, which, as many of you know, reduced food waste at hotel properties by up to 38% in just 12 weeks of pilot. Just measuring it and paying attention, within 12 weeks, food loss, food waste went down by 38%. And now it has been adopted in 18 countries. If you go to a Marriott or Hilton, there's a 50% likelihood that's using that program. And this all happened in the last few years. Hopefully the Vatican also uses this hotelkitchen.org, so we'll see we should ask them about how they're measuring their food waste and food loss. And meanwhile, not only are these models happening, but really institutions are taking this issue up. Through our partnership with AGRA, we supported the National Post-Harvest Management Strategy in Tanzania and facilitated the achievement of the African Union's Malabo commitment to the SDGs, 12.3. The UN FAO supported the African Union to develop policies and strategies for country-specific plans to implement these food loss programs. And we also incubated the All Africa Post-Harvest Congress, the first convening for food loss reduction efforts ever, in partnership with the University of Nairobi, which Jane was at. And then the AU has adopted this event and will be the anchor partner. And the second biannual Congress was just held in Addis Ababa in this past September. It's also important to see how the agenda has changed. In 2015, in 2014, there was no Champions 12.3. Now there is, and they're very active. We have the World Resources Institute that Craig spearheaded, reducing food loss and food waste, setting a global agenda. It was picked up by 270 news outlets and really raised the level of interest in there. And as many of you may have heard, the World Bank has just issued the first ever sustainable development bond to address food loss and food waste, and that's at $1.8 billion. So, that's a very significant set of capital going towards this really important goal. But without a doubt, we've made tremendous progress, yet we've got to do a lot more. And right now, our food system is bankrupting our health, burning up the planet we call home, and overburdening our economies. And the latest global burden of disease has indicated that it's our diet, and especially the food we don't eat enough of, that's really killing us. So food loss and food waste is an important symptom of actually a broken food system, and we need to see that. We are in the process of taking another look at the Rockefeller Foundation strategy and evolving it and honing it to really focus on what we're calling protective foods. The fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, whole grains that are radically underconsumed. And any food loss and food waste efforts we do will be focused on these particular foods that are healthy. And we need to think about the ultimate end goal, which is a healthy, empowered population. So ultimately, I know that many of you share this goal, and we will continue to be a great supporter and fan of the food and food loss. But as a philanthropy, we need to be thinking about what's some of the next issues, and really a broader set of issues around this broken food system and the fact that we're not resulting in populations that are healthy. And I think we all share that the best day of the food loss movement will be its last day when we've really conquered this. But I think today we have a throwaway culture. I know we all want to change that, but I think morality demands that an even more radical approach. I think we have to get to a place where it really bothers me, when I was listening to Ben, that we just don't have enough money for the SDGs, and yet you have fair and sustainable impact investment. Impact investing is fair and sustainable impact investing. Yet, we already have why don't we just call that investment? We already have a name for a financial transaction which one side with power profits to the exclusion of the other side without it, and that name is theft. Right? Investment is something that should be beneficial to everyone, both in this generation and the next. Morality demands a culture that feeds the hundreds of millions who go hungry today, with equally enormous quantity of food that goes to waste, as we've been talking about. Morality demands a culture in which farmers who help feed the world don't struggle to serve fruits and vegetables to their own families. And it also demands a culture in which poverty does not condemn a person to eat foods that cause chronic sickness she cannot afford to treat, but instead protects her from illnesses through the quality of the food she eats. And I realize that that is going to require a lot from us, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the conversation. Thank you.